Well, good evening, all of you, and it is great to be here with you in Belfast tonight at this moment of real change and opportunity for the people of our island. A city with a very proud history, with men and women like Bobby Sands, Winifred Carney, Henry Joy and Marianne McCracken, but also people, men like my fellow Dubliner, Edward Carson, with whom I share so much in common. Both of us Southsiders, both of us graduates of Trinity College Dublin, but perhaps most importantly, both with a very healthy scepticism of Tory governments born of very bitter experience. This city of Belfast has changed immeasurably. This city is young, it's modern, it's diverse and progressive. And the city is looking to a future which is all about opportunity, equality, good jobs, good public services, and much, much more. And of course, it's not just Belfast that's changing. All of Ireland is changing and changing rapidly. The political landscape is being transformed by a generation hungry for change on our island, and we can see this around us every day, and we can see it in this room tonight. 50 years ago, on the 28th of March 1972, the old Stormont Parliament collapsed. A parliament that had been built on foundations of discrimination, sectarianism and inequality came crashing down. And I say this not in a triumphant way, but to simply recognise the reality that a stable society that welcomes and values its citizens, a society that embraces and encourages difference, cannot be built on a political system that is one-dimensional and inward-looking. A healthy society cannot be built on discrimination and inequality. That is the great lesson of the past. But today we are in a very different place. And I am passionate about unlocking the potential that exists on our island. I am passionate about setting out a vision for a united Ireland, at peace with itself and with our nearest neighbour. An Ireland within Europe, confident, forward-looking and proud of our transformative journey, proud of the Good Friday Agreement and our ability to foster respect and equality, proud that we are not afraid of difference, proud that we embrace it. Almost 25 years on, the Good Friday Agreement endures. It protects the rights and identity of all. It allows us to plan for the future, to plan for the change that is coming, to plan for a new and united Ireland. It commits us to a power-sharing executive, which means that we have to plan together, work together, deliver together. And this approach can work. I think people got a glimpse in recent months of what is possible from an assembly and an executive that gets the chance to deliver. You see, the first thing that Michelle O'Neill did when the DUP walked away from the executive was to convene a meeting of party leaders to get work done. And work got done. In fact, the Assembly passed legislation after legislation on climate, on housing, on women's rights and supports for people dealing with the cost of living crisis. And this has been matched by initiative after initiative from ministers at executive level, despite the actions of the Tory government constantly undermining the Good Friday Agreement and trying desperately to slow down the change that they know is coming. So for me, the last few months are a small window into what is possible when parties with a vision for a better future are liberated to work together. So let's just imagine then, imagine a full term of that sort of leadership of that sort of delivery. An executive that's not interested in blocking, but interested in advancing. An executive that is about the future and not the past. An executive that values and embraces partnership over division. You see, we are interested in people, and we are interested in making the political institutions work. We're interested in delivery and in a bridge to a better shared future. I believe that there are many, many people from a unionist tradition who have embraced a progressive future, who actively support rights and entitlements for the LGBTQ community, for women's reproductive rights, and for the rights of Irish speakers. I believe there are so many who have no truck with sectarianism or discrimination, and they are perfectly comfortable in their British identity, as they should be. But they also see the good sense in partnership and agreement. And that's what the next Assembly and the next Executive must be about. Supporting workers and families in a cost of living crisis, investing in our health services so they are there when you need them most, developing a new economic strategy that allows us to unleash the potential for well-paid jobs and to expand into new markets. So Michelle and our full team will be there, and those who join us will find a party ready to do business, ready to get back to delivering for people, and ready to start building a new future. And you see, we don't have to agree on everything, but we must recognise and respect each other as equals. We must agree that we are committed to the Assembly and the Executive. We must agree that we will deliver for the people who elect us. We must agree that we are willing to roll up our sleeves and get on with the business of government. And that is Sinn Féin's commitment to the people as we set out on this historic campaign. We've had a glimpse of partnership and delivery over the past few months. So let's be very clear on this too, that never ever again can the success or failure of the political institutions be measured simply in their ability to survive. The success or failure of the institutions in the next mandate will be judged on the ability to deliver effective government, to deliver progressive change, and to deliver for our public services. So we in Sinn Féin are eager to be given the opportunity to build a true partnership government. We're eager to be given that opportunity to lead, not just in the Assembly and Executive in Belfast, but indeed across Ireland, in Dublin and in government in Dublin too. And while we take nothing for granted, we are hopeful that in the time ahead, Sinn Féin will also be part of and perhaps even lead that next government in Dublin. We want to unite our people. We are determined to unite our country. We are determined to realise the potential which is all around us. So, my friends, as we launch this election campaign, be very clear of this, that this is the time for change. This is the time to deliver. This is the time for real leadership. This is the time for Michelle O'Neill, our next speaker.
Aharja agus Cumrádatha is more honour due Lorch and Shaw and Oct. I forgot how powerful it is to walk into such a big room of activists and feel that energy. So thanks a million to everybody for coming along this evening. It is powerful to see everybody after what has been a challenging couple of years. So thanks a million for being here this evening. As Mary Lou has rightly said, the national political landscape is shifting, and it's shifting dramatically. And people right across our island are demanding change, and that means many different things for many different people. But the change that Sinn Féin is leading here, whether it's in this city or right across the whole of the country, is about putting workers and families first. That's our first and foremost, about putting workers and families first. Our priority is to make politics work. Our priority is to show that real change is possible in making people's everyday lives better. So that means strengthening our health service. It means giving our children a world-class education. It means building affordable homes. It means making our communities safer. It means protecting our rural way of life. It means creating good jobs so the next generation has a future here. It means supporting workers and families struggling through the cost of living crisis, which is placing such a heavy burden on so many people. Sinn Féin have made health a priority. Finance Minister Conor Murphy has delivered £200 million to transform the health service, and that will support healthcare workers. It will transform the health service, and it's about making the Executive's #1 priority health in the next mandate. It means tackling waiting lists. It means ensuring you can see your GP whenever you need to. We have to protect our health service at all costs. We have to resist the Tory underfunding, and we have to dismiss attempts to dismantle the NHS. I believe people rightly want their politicians to work together and to prioritise these types of important things. When I reflect on the 2 years that's been, the 2 years since Power Assurance was re-established, I think it's demonstrated that Power Assurance can work when people and those involved are invested and equally committed to making it work with that unity of purpose and leadership. And I want to say a wee bit more about that in a few moments. So next Sunday will mark the 24th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, the bedrock of the peace process, a peace agreement that has parity of esteem, the principle of consent, and equality and respect at its core. This anniversary allows us to reflect on how far we've come, the journey that we've travelled together, and it allows us to assess the present realities which confront us here in 2022, not least in the context of Brexit and, importantly, Ireland's future beyond Brexit. As of the 3rd of February, when the DUP First Minister resigned, our Executive has been unable to meet and take decisions on behalf of the very public that we serve. This follows the DUP's unlawful boycott of the North-South Ministerial Council meetings. And both these things together amount to an assault on the very Good Friday Agreement itself. It's political vandalism, it's an act of political vandalism, and Boris Johnson has acquiesced to this by staying silent, which tells us everything that we need to know about his interest in the people, the place and the politics here. This is a British Prime Minister and a Tory government who never has and never will prioritise the needs of the people here. I represent the Good Friday Agreement generation, and I will make no apology for fiercely defending it at every turn. I was in Washington over the last number of weeks for St Patrick's with Mary Lou and with Conor, and we delivered this message in terms of the defence of the Good Friday Agreement. But equally, it was heard loud and clear that the US administration will not do a trade deal if the Good Friday Agreement is jeopardised in any way. We know the solution to the Brexit problem is the protocol, and whilst it's certainly imperfect, it does mitigate us from the worst impacts of Brexit. It prevents a hard border and it stops the complete unravelling of the Good Friday Agreement. And it's also a very clear fact that there is no credible alternative that exists. So it is high time that the present realities were honestly assessed, but also equally understood. The all-island economy continues to flourish, and that's good news. It's good news for the economy, for jobs, for livelihoods, and for a new generation of young people. And that's where our focus must be. It must be on the future, and it must be about our young people's future. And that's why the type of futile security threats that we have saw over the last week in North Belfast and in Derry, and attacks on the offices of public representatives will not deter any of us. Attacks of these nature are attacks on democracy, and they represent an attack on us all. The minority will try to draw us back, but they will not win. This society is moving forward, and peace and stability will always prevail. The forthcoming election on the 5th of May will return, in my opinion, a majority of MLAs who support the protocol and who equally respect the rule of law. The British Secretary of State, Brandon Lewis, and his government have abandoned any pretence of rigorous impartiality in the discharge of his duties. And we often hear him speak and others speak of the need for balance. But folks, it's a one-sided balance sheet as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the attitude and the approach of the Tories here. And the recent debacle around the double jobbing is a case in point, which amounted to giving the DUP leader an each-way bet in the forthcoming Assembly election, whilst retaining his seat in Westminster should things just not turn out as he wishes. But once again, working together with the other parties, we roundly rejected that, and it was hastily withdrawn. I believe the failure by London to see the peace process as requiring the constant continued involvement of the two governments as co-guarantors is a core part of the problem. There are many outstanding challenges remaining, and they can't be ignored because they are an enormous fault line and must be confronted and must be addressed. This does include dealing with the legacy of the past, reconciliation and sectarianism, and the delivery of rights. Now, as we know, the British government hasn't a good track record on the delivery of rights. In just the last week, they have again reneged on language rights and women's reproductive rights. It's not good enough. The campaigns will continue, the campaigns will get louder, and these rights will be delivered. When the Assembly, Executive and NSMC were restored back in January 2020, it was with a shared commitment to deliver the public services, the societal reforms and future that our people need and deserve. It was ambitious to form a five-party coalition executive, but it was achieved. And thankfully so, because whilst everyone knew there would be challenges ahead, no one could have predicted that in only a matter of weeks the executive would be dealing with a global pandemic that would have such devastating impacts on every part of society, community, people's lives and livelihoods. But I have to say it's all credit to ministers from across all of the five parties that they responded and they have worked with a unity of purpose and a unity of leadership for the past 2 years. I genuinely believe that's what the public want to see more of. They want to see cooperation and mostly they want to see delivery. Unfortunately, the contrast to all of that is Jeffrey Donaldson warning that it would be difficult for his party to re-enter the political institutions after the 5th of May election. This is heard by those of us in this room, those within nationalism, as unionism doing democracy only on unionism's terms. So to those who hanker for the past, those who disrupt the present, those who threaten our future, they need to realise that there is no going back, there is only going forward. The facts are that the balance of power at Stormont has shifted irreversibly, and political unionism must come to terms with the fact that the world is moving on fast. So, whilst the DUP and the TUV are trying to take us backwards, our message is loud and clear. We are only moving forward. So I say yes to peace and stability, yes to the Good Friday Agreement, yes to the protocol, yes to a First Minister for all, yes to language rights, yes to abortion rights, yes to integrated education. We will be defending and not renegotiating the Good Friday Agreement now or in the time ahead. We will not be shifting any goalposts to satisfy unionism before or after the 5th of May election. This is now about those of us who are interested, who want to work together to make the Assembly, Executive and all Ireland institutions work, to deliver on health, housing, education and jobs, to deliver social change and economic prosperity, to take advantage of our dual market access to the British and EU single markets. We have demonstrated how we can deliver in the executive to support workers and families. Sinn Féin Communities Minister Georgie Hargey has delivered the biggest shake-up of the housing system in over 50 years and has plans to build 100,000 social and affordable homes. Sinn Féin is also working to improve the planning system so that rural communities can be supported. Sinn Féin is working to strengthen workers' rights by introducing legislation to ban zero-hour contracts, to give paid leave to carers and supporting and widening paid leave for parents who have suffered a bereavement. Sinn Féin Finance Minister Conor Murphy has made paying workers the living wage a requirement to get any government contract. Sinn Féin wants to build a fairer and a stronger economy and drive the potential of the all-island economy to improve the quality of jobs and to raise incomes for workers north and south. And to achieve that, it's time for new leadership of the Economy Department. The rise in living costs and the fuel and electricity price hikes are placing huge pressure on workers and families right now. Sinn Féin have delivered a £200 energy payment to over 280,000 homes. We have called on the Tories to scrap VAT on energy bills to cut household costs. The British Chancellor's statement last week did little to help struggling households, and particularly those on universal credit. But we need to stay united, and we need to keep going at the Tories until we achieve change. Our Communities Minister, Georgie Hargey, again has binned the bedroom tax to protect thousands of people from this cruel Tory tax. Sinn Féin ministers are working every single day to put money into the pockets of ordinary people. On the 5th of May, the most important election in a generation will take place. I am delighted that Sinn Féin will be standing a total of 34 candidates in all 18 constituencies. Over 50% of our candidates are female, and this election is very much about the future. The Sinn Féin priority is to make politics work, to demonstrate that real change is possible and to lead that change across the island. Working together, we can prioritise health, housing and education and use the protocol to create better jobs in a stronger economy, and we can build a modern progressive society based on fairness and equality. We are in a decade of opportunity, and Sinn Féin will not miss that moment. While our past was divided, our future will be shared. The GFA provides a peaceful and democratic path to achieving Irish unity. Brexit has been a real catalyst for change. Attitudes are changing in the north. The choice now is between a narrow and inward-looking Brexit Britain and an outward-facing, inclusive modern Ireland in the EU. In April 2017, the EU announced that in the event of Irish reunification, the island of Ireland will have automatic route back into full EU membership. So these are seminal times. And on the 5th of May, this election has the potential to bring about an historic and a seismic shift in the political landscape. So huge change is on the horizon, but it's not enough just to live through it. We must shape it, and equally we must lead it. It is now time for real change. It's time for the big ideas, but most importantly, it's time for the type of change that delivers on the ambitions for each and every single person who shares our island. Gura Mila Maigov.